Hola, everyone, and welcome to Move Out of Burnout and Flourish as Women of Color Engineers. I am Lola Rodriguez Vargas, and I currently serve as Project Director for the Women of Color in Engineering Collaborative. Thank you for joining us today. As we begin to get settled and ready, to start, I invite you to share with us in the comments where you're tuning from. I also want to invite you to share where you're from, because that's a question that I always prefer to have distinct where I am located and where I'm from. So feel free to share in the comments either, or I'm also curious to know why you decided to join us for this webinar. So if you feel confident and comfortable, feel free to share that as well. I'll share with you all that I love marking the end of seasons. That's something that my mom and I always used to do in December so that I can begin a new season with more strength. And that is one of the reasons I'm excited to join you today and hear from Tammy Ramos. I am joining you from the ancestral and current lands of the Tohono O'odham and Pascua Yaqui tribes in Tucson, Arizona. And I am from Puerto Rico. As we begin, I see that we're all settled. Thank you for sharing in the chat again where you're joining us from, or where you're from, or why you decided to jump in and be with us this morning. If this is your first time joining us, this webinar is a part of a regular offering by the Women of Color in Engineering Collaborative. So I see some of the folks that are representing some of those organizations. So I just want to offer a quick shout out for Girls in Civil. I see you in the audience, Sophia. Thank you for joining us. And I want to acknowledge the collective burden and ongoing struggles for liberation, many of which deeply impact women of color. These conflicts contribute to the mass disabling of vulnerable communities and are often left unaddressed. Naming this is a small but necessary step towards collective liberation. And once again, if this is your first time joining us, this is a regular offering by the Women of Color in Engineering Collaborative, a collaborative of more than 20 STEM-focused organizations and associations working to reshape the landscape of engineering to be more supportive of women of color. We welcome you to join the work of the WCEC by visiting our website. If you haven't before, Kinesia, our programs manager, is going to be sharing the information in the chat. I see that folks are joining us from Raleigh, Milwaukee, New York, Seattle, Louisville. I see Susan joining us from SHIP, joining us from Kansas, also one of our member organizations. Thank you for joining us. New Jersey, and all sorts of areas. Thank you. I see that Kinesia now has shared the website, so make sure you check it out. We are also incredibly excited to invite you to join our Inspiring Leaders Profiles database. If you haven't before, I also see some of the folks that are featured in here with us. Thank you for joining us. In this profiles database, you will be able to highlight your contributions, expertise, and experiences with other women of color engineers. And the database will not only serve as a celebration of achievements, but it will also serve as a tool of empowerment to diversify the field of engineering and as a resource for organizations to find speakers and connect individuals with networking opportunities. So we officially want to invite you all to check it out. You will only be able to see the profiles database if you join. You can join as a member or as a collaborator. Please make sure to check it out. The link is being dropped in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us at wcec@sui.org. I would like to thank the Society of Women Engineers and LatinaVIDA for collaborating with the Women of Color in Engineering Collaborative for this webinar. And I want to offer a few quick housekeeping notes before we start. The first is that closed captioning is available via the CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom window. Make sure to engage that if you would benefit from it. This is an interactive and engaging conversation, so join the chat to share thoughts and personal experiences. Please refrain from sharing others' stories without their consent. So we want to hear from you. Feel free to drop any thoughts, comments, additions to the chat. At the end, we'll share a survey link for your feedback and future webinar ideas. Please be prepared to share anything there. And a part of this session is being recorded and will be made available to you for replay soon. Join our newsletter to make sure you receive the replay. Kenesha is also going to put the newsletter link in the chat as well. Because of this, we do not authorize anyone to record any part of today's session, including video, audio, or written quotes from what members of the audience share. This includes sharing chat or group breakout session excerpts with others, including email, chat, and or public social media platforms. And now I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Roberta Rincon, Director of Research and Impact with the Society of Women Engineers, to introduce our guest speaker. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you, Lola. I want to personally thank all of you for attending today's webinar. I know that this year has asked a lot of each of us, demanding resilience when we're pushing ourselves to the limit, powering through deadlines and shifting workplace landscapes, weighed down by exhaustion and maybe some self-doubt. Well, today we're focusing on recognition and restoration, recognition of the pressures that we're experiencing, the emotional labor and fatigue, and restoring the parts of us that deserve care, space, and replenishment. Today's webinar aims to give you the space to breathe and to reflect, to reconnect with your purpose, and to rebuild your energy in community with others who understand. It's my sincere pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. I've been very fortunate to have worked with Tammy Ramos since we first started the Women of Color in Engineering Collaborative. As the CEO of LatinaVIDA, Tammy partners with leading organizations to advance first-generation professionals through culturally relevant leadership programs and executive coaching. She works with senior leaders to develop self-awareness, deepen empathy, and build inclusive workplaces that unlock innovation and performance. As a first-generation high school graduate turned attorney with more than 25 years of experience advising Fortune 500 companies, public agencies, universities, and major nonprofits, she's a nationally recognized keynote speaker and executive leadership coach that I know will not just share amazing knowledge and insights with you today, but will inspire you with renewed clarity and remind you that you are more than your role, more than the expectations placed on you. Through reflection, storytelling, and actionable strategies, I hope that you leave today's session feeling recharged and ready to move from survival mode to flourish. Tammy, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Roberta, and welcome everyone. It is my pleasure to get to be here with all of you today. Huge shout out to Roberta and the team at WCEC for all of their thoughtful preparation for our session today. So let's just jump right in. Our agenda, we're going to talk about what is burnout, what causes burnout, and what are the effects of burnout. I'm going to give you a little tiny quiz just to hear from you. We're going to create an individual personalized strategy to help you to flourish. And if we have time, oftentimes we do not, but I also have some advice for leaders who are in charge of managing people, those that report to them, what it is that they can do, a strategy they can put in place to support their employees and teams in flourishing. As mentioned earlier, you'll be given an evaluation. This is very important to me. The quality of the services that we deliver matter a lot, and so your honest, constructive feedback, I value and appreciate. We'll end with a little time for Q&A and talk about what the next steps are. So what are our ground rules for today? I first want to invite you, as much as you are able to be on camera, please do. I always enjoy getting to have a conversation, and I kind of think of it that way. So I'm going to invite you to be 100% present so that you get the full value and impact of our conversation today. And as mentioned earlier, this is not me talking at you. We're going to have a conversation. So I want to invite you to participate, to engage, to contribute, because there is so much power in collective learning. Yes, I'm an expert in this subject, but you all too bring your lived experiences to burnout and to wellness and flourishing. And so I want us to be able to learn from one another. We are going to have an opportunity to share in a small group discussion that will not be recorded, nor will there be recording when we come back to have a group debrief on that. Mentioned earlier by Lola as well is we want to respect the privacy of any personal stories that might be shared today. And if there's anything else that will make you feel safe, I want you to please drop that in the chat box. We have co-hosts on here right now who are kind of watching that for me and will let me know. Because the point is for you to be able to not only learn, but to ask questions that you might have, and I want you to feel safe to do that. So as
And
we
there
jump
is
in,
one question, if you don't
yes,
mind me lifting it up, I think it'll help everyone. Do you prefer that they wait to turn on their cameras at the discussion time, or would you prefer them to do that like now?
jump on camera now, because I'm looking at all of you, but I see lots of black boxes. I see Natalie, Camila, Leslie. My PowerPoint is on over here on this other screen. I'm not looking at it. I already know what it all says. That's for you all to be able to see it. But you know, when you're having a conversation with somebody, it's more pleasant to be able to see your facial expressions, and you know, feel free to use emojis and hearts and comments, raise your hand. Again, I want this to be engaging. So thank you for interrupting to ask that question. I am going to share a very brief video clip with you, and then we'll get into what is burnout. We're going to talk about what the problem is, and then we're going to move into the solution.
Noun is a state of physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion. The term was coined in the 1970s by the American psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, who used it to describe the consequences of severe stress and high ideals in helping professions. Since then, the concept has expanded to include any profession. The main researchers who study burnout define it as a psychological syndrome emerging as a prolonged response to chronic interpersonal stressors on the job. That doesn't mean things outside work can't create a sense of physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion, but for the purposes of this video, I want to clarify what we know about burnout in terms of what most mental health professionals probably mean when they use the term, which is occupational burnout. Why? The ICD-11, which is a diagnostic manual, includes burnout specifically as a workplace phenomenon and defines it as a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. One of the brains explains it as soul-sucking emptiness and despair where caring and passion for my work used to exist. A lack of joy in success and mounting dread of my failures. Exhaustion, apathy, and dread every time I think about work. Desire to curl up and never move. Which is actually pretty accurate. According to ICD-11, occupational burnout isn't just about being tired. In fact, it's characterized by 3 dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy.
So let's
Hello,
talk
brains.
about
Are you burned out?
Sorry.
Have you been?
that forward. So by the way, that is Jessica McCabe. She does a lot of work in ADHD. She has over 1 million subscribers to her YouTube channel. And I just think that she very quickly expresses what burnout actually is. And I think some of us have felt that over our careers at different times and at different intensity levels. But the 3 things that I think that we want to focus on is the mental exhaustion, the emotional exhaustion, and the physical exhaustion. Because our goal today is not that we stay stuck in the problem, but that we find creative strategies to be able to successfully manage it. Now, totally eliminating stress and totally eliminating challenges is not realistic, but we can manage it. And I say it's not realistic because life is life, right? Some things are within our control and some things are not within our control. And part of the solution is the ability to identify the difference. Is this something I'm in control of? Because if I am in control of it, then I have ownership and responsibility over it. All of the things that are not within my control, I have to let that go and let that stay over there so it doesn't steal my peace, my joy, my motivation. So let's dive just a little bit deeper into the causes of burnout, and this is where you are going to participate in this conversation. So let's talk together about what causes burnout. So just put it in the chat box. Feel free to raise your hand or come off mute. But when you think about your own experiences or you've seen other people, what would you say are the main causes for burnout? And there's no right or wrong answers, right? We're just kind of brainstorming together. So I see Alexandra said understaffing, Carrie, too much to do, too many assignments at work, layoffs, constantly shifting priorities, strict deadlines, feeling overwhelmed, harassment, misalignment with work and passion, conflicting values, unclear expectations, lack of authority. You know, I don't even need to show my bullet points because you have all put them right here. And I'm probably going to ask for Roberta to share the chat box because I might need to add some of these bullet points on here. So you've already said them all, right? On manageable workloads, on reasonable time pressures, not enough resources, poor communication might be part of it, you know, not being able to manage up very well with the current boss, maybe insufficient reward, etc. There are so many different causes to burnout. Let's talk about the effects. Now we know what causes it. How does it impact us? How does it show up? So let's start first, or you just put it in the chat box for me. What do you think the effects of burnout are? How does it show up? Stress, weight gain, bad mood, apathy, tired, exhaustion. Yes, resentment. Yes, health issues, low morale. Yes. So yes, low performance. Okay, you guys are just way ahead of me, which is good. So productivity and performance. I saw a lot of this come in here in the chat box right now. It could be inhibited creativity and innovation. That's how it shows up in productivity and performance. It could be making mistakes, more accidents and injuries on the job, which is not good for organizations, right? It could include interpersonal and relational conflicts. We might start to see higher absenteeism and even turnover. And I saw somebody put the word apathy in there, right? There's less empathy while dealing with others. And why is that? I mean, if we're burnt out mentally, emotionally, physically, we're just absolutely exhausted. We can't pour from an empty cup, right? We can't be patient with others. We can't be understanding. We can't be empathetic when we have nothing left to give. We're running on empty. Behaviorally and emotionally, how does that show up? You all already said it in all of the chat box messages here. People might be more critical at work. There might be these sidebar conversations where folks are complaining and venting out their frustrations. They may be irritable with coworkers and customers and clients, which is not good, right? No bueno if we're not showing up well for the people that we serve. And when there's low employee morale with one person, it has a ripple effect where it impacts all of those who are around us. We might see that, we and others have a hard time concentrating, not really being able to fully be present or listen. There could be, a lack of satisfaction in even our achievements. We can feel disillusioned about the job. And, one that I hate to point this out, but I think that we have to be honest and truthful. We have to know what the problem is if we're going to figure out what the solution is. So this last bullet here on, you know, the use of food, drugs, and alcohol to feel better. The National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics in 2023 indicates a rise in substance abuse, increase in accidental drug overdose and deaths, and that 10.2% of Americans 12 and older have some sort of alcohol use disorder. And the reality is that's 1 in 10 people. So anytime we're in a room of 10 people, more likely than not, there's one there who, may be having a challenge. I started my career as an attorney, and alcohol use is a huge problem in that profession. But we don't want it to be a problem. But if it is, we have to acknowledge it, right? So that we can do something different. And then third, I see comments coming through. I stress eat peanut butter directly out of the jar. I love it. I put chocolate in mine and put it in the microwave so it can melt. Let's talk about the physical and health effects of burnout. Feel free to drop, if you haven't already dropped in there, what you think some of the physical and health effects are. I'd like to see before I share with you my bullet points. So how does that show up? What does it look like physically, health-wise? What are the effects of burnout? Unmanaged stress. Sleep disruption. Yes. Yes, headaches, unable to concentrate, tired, listless. Yes, high blood pressure. Yes, chronic migraines, TMJ. Yes, body shutting down. Yes. So you have everything I have here on the slide. So, and plus some, right? You've got plus things. Lack of energy, change in sleep habits, experiencing headaches, migraines. It might be bowel problems, stomach issues, poor diet, right? Because we just don't have time to go to the store and buy healthy things and, cut them up and prepare them and eat them. Might be running on the go, grabbing the donut, the bagel, the meal at Mickey D's. We might be experiencing gain weight or gain loss, even changes in grooming habits or hygiene. So I want to take a poll here and ask you, of course, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but I want you to raise your hand if you would say that you would like to move from the picture that you see here, a woman who doesn't know if she's coming or going, and she's being pulled in every single direction. If you would like to move from that to this, very well-balanced, peaceful, relaxed, filled with love and joy. So thumbs up, heart, anything that says, yes, that's what I want, so that we can move into the solution. Okay, fabulous. I'm glad to see that. So switching gears now that we know what the problem is, what causes it, what the effects are, and just that we don't want to live like that anymore, right? We're going to switch gears and talk about how do we create a strategy to move out of, overcome, and avoid burnout. The good news is there is a solution, and there is a lot within your control that you may not recognize right now. And I want to bring that to the surface, and I want us to do it together so that we walk out of here with a plan in place, right? With a plan in place. So the Oxford Dictionary defines flourish as to grow or develop in a healthy or vigorous way. So thumbs up if you want to develop in a healthy and vigorous way. I'm going to put both of my thumbs up. I want to live a healthy and vigorous life. You know, I always tell my children, I have 3 grown children, 20, almost 22 and 23, all amazing human beings. I'm very proud of them. But I tell them, look, you've got one body, and that body has to last you your whole life. And this is your life. So be a good steward of it, right? Be a good steward of it. I'm not ashamed to say I'm 54 years old, 55 in March. And I think about, when I think about taking care of myself, part of that is what I want my future self to look like when the grandchildren come, right? And I'm not wanting or expecting grandchildren anytime soon, right? I want my kids to take care of their lives, get their education, have a firm foundation to bring in children into the world. But when that happens, I want to be prepared. I want to push the stroller, pick up the kids, play with them on the ground. So one of my whys of why do I focus on health? The Harvard Business Review published an amazing article in 2023 entitled Use the Science of Flourishing to Increase Your Well-Being. And they provided a holistic framework for well-being. And I borrowed from that, that study and that research to create my own concept of flourishing. Since then, because this was back in 2023, there's been a lot more work done on flourishing. And we at LatinaVIDA have created actually an entire wellness program. So you're seeing just like this one workshop, but we've really built that out because we recognize this is a chronic problem in the workplace of people being burnt out and overwhelmed and not performing at their best. And not only is it a disservice to ourselves, but it's a disservice to organizations. They're not getting the best version of ourselves and all that we could bring to the table because we're worn out, right? Okay, so as you can see here, there is a link, a correlation between flourishing at work and also in life. So they're connected. We can't bring one self to work and a different self, at home and in our lives. So whatever's happening at work and whatever's happening in our lives, those things are interconnected. So their definition of flourishing connects 4 main areas. And those areas are 1, purpose. In order to flourish, we need to be able to have a sense of our purpose. Why do we exist? Why am I here? Is there a purpose for my existence? How does my job, my career, my work help me to connect to that higher purpose? And I'll just share really quickly. I'm a first generation Latina, the first in my family to not only graduate from college and law school, I'm the first to even graduate from high school. First to graduate from high school. Also the first to not be a teen mom. And when I applied for law school, I went to Notre Dame Law School, go Irish. In my personal essay, I was a young girl at 22 years old, and I had this deep sense of my purpose. And I wrote it in my personal essay for law school admittance. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I get a little distracted. Fun fact, I went to law school with Amy Coney Barrett, who now sits on the United States Supreme Court. Imagine that. We weren't friends then. We're not friends now. Nothing against her. I actually graduated a year before she did. So we didn't really interact with one another, nor do I think she knew or anybody could imagine what her role would be today. But when I, in my essay, the last sentence in my essay, I said, I will be the voice, power, and strength of the unheard, weak, and helpless. And it's a large part of why Latina Vida exists, is that we want to empower and equip the next generation of Latinas to rise to the top in their careers and to do it with joy, right? To do it with joy and a sense of purpose. I left the legal profession because way back then, I didn't think that I could live out my high calling. And so I left to go find where I could do that. And I don't regret that decision. Emotions. So those who flourish are able to experience even positive emotions despite circumstances. So whether, things are going well or not, they can see the silver lining. So these are people who tend to see the cup as half full and not half empty. They have hope instead of despair. They nurture an attitude of gratitude. I was recently coaching somebody and she said, because I told her, I said, you should do a gratitude list every day. And she's like, I can't think of something every day. And I said to her, okay, well, instead of doing a gratitude list, why don't you write a list of the things that you take for granted? Like you have legs and you can walk. You have food in your refrigerator. You have clothes in your closet. You have reliable transportation. And it was a shift, right? It's a mind shift of, that's right. You have a job. Maybe not the perfect job. There's a lot of people out there right now who wish that they had a job, just a job. Relationships. So people who flourish, they feel connected to other people. They have communities that matter to them. Like you have this beautiful community here. And as Roberta shared, LatinaVIDA has been a part of WCEC since before it even existed, right? But when it was a concept, an idea. And we need that. We need communities that we feel like we truly belong to, right? There's a sense of identity and connectedness. And, these are the people who know me, that I don't have to wear a mask. I don't have to perform. I can show up as me in my good days and my not good days, with my makeup, not makeup. And these people are not going to judge me. They're going to love me and care about me just as I am, but probably love us enough to not let us stay stuck, right? So these are people who are gonna speak the truth and love to us, to say, I don't know, did you take ownership over your part in that conversation? Or, if you're stuck, what are you doing to get yourself unstuck? We do need empathy and people to join us when we feel like we need to vent, but we also need people who are going to say, I want to help you get unstuck. Now, before you go to breakout sessions, I'm going to explain to you what Flourish is, what the strategy of Flourish is. And I'm going to ask you to be thinking about as I go through each one of these. So what I've done is I've taken the word flourish, and each letter in flourish is an action item that you can do, you can implement. And what I'm going to ask you is to identify 3 of the letters in flourish that you're going to take and make part of your strategy and your plan when you leave here today. So what are those 3 things? Because when you go to breakout groups, I want you to share it with your breakout group, because there's power in saying something out loud. It's like we're holding ourselves accountable to what we say that we're going to do to take back ownership of our lives, of our careers, of our emotions, of our relationships, so that we can live a life of flourishing. So the first thing in flourish is the letter F, and that stands for find friends and allies. Find friends and allies. We were not meant to do life alone. There's this great Harvard University study. It's like 85-year long study on happiness. And that study reveals that those people who have strong relationships live longer, they're happier, and they're healthier. And they even conclude that social fitness is as important as physical fitness. So it's easy for us to get into, yeah, I need to make time to start working out, or, you know, going for walks or stretching or whatever that is. But we also have to be intentional to make time for our social relationships. The L in flourish stands for leave toxic environments. They make us sick. And when we are sick, we cannot show up and be the best versions of who we really are. And I'll tell you, in my late 20s, I got very sick because I was not in the best environment. I was significantly stressed out. I was the only Latina in my workplace. I was the first, and I was only one of two women in my law firm. It was tough. I still feel some trauma. I'm just kidding. I don't feel any trauma anymore. But I had to leave that environment because it made me sick. The O in flourish stands for own your space. And think of this like your bubble. It's your sacred space. You choose what and who to allow into it. This can be both emotional and physical, right? So owning your space. Physically, I would say have a spot that's yours. That's your, you know how sometimes I've heard some men say, you know, the garage is their space or whatever. They have a man cave or something. Well, we need to have our own little space. And it might be a corner in the house. It could be a chair on the patio. You know, if space is significantly limited, maybe it's in your car. I don't know, but make a space that's yours. And that space is where you meditate, you journal, you read, you make phone calls with people that you know you're going to be able to have meaningful conversations, where you walk away and you feel uplifted. You feel torn down after a conversation with somebody that's, you know, probably don't have them in your sacred space. The U in flourish stands for understand your needs and communicate them. So what do you need to be happy, whole, and thriving? And who needs to know that? Do you need more personal time so that you can exercise and journal and do fun activities? Do you need more meaningful conversations, maybe with a spouse or a partner or a child? There's this great book, The 5 Love Languages. I highly recommend it. Although it was thumbs up if you've ever read that book. Pay attention. It was designed for romantic relationships, but I see that it transcends all relationships. And it's knowing your own love language so that you can communicate that to others. And it's great to know the love languages of other people. I'll share with you my daughter. One of her love languages, the top one, is gifts, right? She loves if she gets a little gift, little cookies sitting on the table for her, little something. She loves gifts. I could care less about gifts. I want quality time. That's what matters to me. She could care less about quality time, but it's good to know these things about one another so that I speak her love language every time I put something on the counter for her. She speaks my love language, which she sent me a text today. And she said, hey, Mom, when I get off work today, we can watch a movie, because we know each other's love language. That means a lot to me. She's going to spend quality time watching a movie with me. All right. And the R in, let me speed it up a little bit because I want to get into our breakout rooms. Release negative people. They steal our energy and our joy. Unfortunately, I know sometimes those negative people can be in our own families, and I have a brother-in-law that I feel that way about. So I cannot totally eliminate him from my life, but I can decide how much in my bubble he gets to be, right? And so do you, right? If there's somebody negative, you just let them go. You don't let them in the bubble, and you don't let them steal your peace. The I is insist on respect. It's okay to disagree. There's lots of things happening in our country and in the world that people don't agree about, right? Politics and religion and all of that stuff. And it's okay to agree to disagree, but we're going to treat with one another with respect. And respect has to be mutual, right? Reciprocal. And if somebody's not going to respect you, you don't have control over that, but you do have control over your bubble, how much they get to be inside of your bubble. And so long as we are demonstrating respect, then it's easier to insist upon it, right? We give it first. S is share your pain. So studies have shown that simply talking about our problems and sharing our negative emotions with someone that we trust can be profoundly healing. It goes beyond venting. It is somebody else standing witness to our hurt, And I'll tell you, I've benefited from doing that. The H, the last thing is heal your trauma. I think being on this earth for over half a century, which I can't even believe that sounds so old. I don't think I've ever said that. But anyway, I can say that most of us don't get out of life without having experienced some sort of hurt or having caused some sort of hurt to somebody else. And so there's no shame in that, right? That we shouldn't be ashamed that we have experienced trauma of some kind. The point is to recognize that and to say, I choose my healing today. And I've spent many hours in counseling and therapy over my lifetime, and I'm so glad that I did, so that I could heal from those traumas and be here with all of you today. Because I'm pretty sure if I hadn't done that hard work, I wouldn't even be getting to have this conversation with all of you. And so it is my joy to get to have this conversation. Now it's your turn. You're going to go into breakout rooms, very small breakout rooms. You'll have about a minute to share with one another your at least one thing on this list that you say, I'm going to make this a part of my flourish strategy and plan. And I plan to implement that today. Don't say tomorrow. Implement it today. Begin today. Because we don't know if we have tomorrow. We know we have right now today. So today, this is what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. My breakout room button here.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Tammy, for your time and sharing your expertise with us. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. And as Tammy and I mentioned in the beginning, we want to make sure that you take a few minutes, please, to complete the evaluation. Just dropped it in the chat, so please go ahead. That's gonna take you just like 1 minute. It's gonna help us so much so that we continue to have considerations in the programming that we bring to you, and your feedback is so valued. So please take a moment. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we want to invite you to join our Inspiring Leaders Profiles database, which, as you know, we recently launched internally and now it's open to all of you. And you will be able to highlight your contributions, expertise, and experiences with other women of color engineers. And as we experienced today, it's so important to connect with each other because sometimes we are on our own in our own cubes or organizations. So it's really important for us that you have places to connect with each other and also contribute. The database will not only serve as a celebration of the achievements and as a tool of empowerment to diversify the field of engineering, but also as a resource for organizations to find speakers and connect individuals with networking opportunities. So if you're a collaborator and not a woman of color in engineering yourself, you can also check it out. And the link will also be placed in the chat. So you have access to the survey. Thank you for completing that. And in a moment, or Kenisha's unable to drop it in the chat, it's already above. I'm going to drop it once more so that you have the Inspiring Leaders database there. And in the beginning, we had mentioned that if you want access to the playback, the easiest way is to sign up for our newsletter. So if you go to our website and click on Contact Us, there is where you access the newsletter. Make sure that you sign up and also connect with us via LinkedIn. That is also a neat way for you to be able to connect with others that participated today. Tammy just shared her LinkedIn link on the chat. Please feel free to do that yourself if you want folks to connect with you. That is also very important to us. You don't have to connect only through us, and make sure that you continue to increase the volume of your community of support in other women of color in engineering. Again, thank you for everything, and we hope to hear from you. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thank you for joining us.